What if I told you your negative thoughts are lying to you? What if the voice in your head is not wisdom, but fear wearing a smart disguise? And what if today you could finally silence it? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you are going to learn Stoic rules that can permanently change the way your mind works. Welcome back to the Growth Dose. Negative thinking is not weakness. It is a habit, and like every habit, it can be broken. The Stoics were not emotionless robots. They were warriors of the mind. People like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca lived through chaos, betrayal, illness, and war, yet they trained their minds to stay steady. Today, I will share powerful Stoic principles that can permanently change the way your mind works. Let's begin. Control what you can, release what you cannot. Most negative thinking is born from trying to control what was never in your hands in the first place. You replay conversations in your mind, wishing you had said something different. You imagine future scenarios, trying to predict every possible outcome. You stress over how others see you, what they think about you, and whether they approve of your choices. But none of these things truly belong to you. The ancient Stoics, especially Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, taught a hard but liberating principle. Some things are up to us, and some are not. Your effort is yours. Your attitude is yours. Your discipline is yours. But the past cannot be edited, the future cannot be forced, and other people's minds cannot be managed. When you try to control what lies outside your authority, you create tension within yourself. Anxiety grows in the gap between reality and your demands. The more tightly you try to grip what is not yours to hold, the more powerless you feel. The shift begins the moment you accept reality instead of arguing with it. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What is the best response I can choose right now?" That single question pulls your energy back from chaos and places it into action. You may not control the storm, but you control how you stand in the rain. You may not control rejection, delay, or loss, but you control your composure, your integrity, and your next move. This is where real power lives, not in forcing outcomes, but in mastering reactions. When you take full responsibility for your response, negative thoughts lose their fuel. They cannot survive in a mind that is focused on action instead of complaint. Peace does not come from controlling everything around you. It comes from mastering what is within you. Question every thought like a judge. Not every thought that enters your mind deserves your trust. Your brain produces thousands of thoughts every single day, and many of them are automatic, emotional, and biased. When your mind whispers, "You are not good enough," or "You always fail," it often speaks from fear, not from fact. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught that it is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to separate reality from interpretation. A mistake is a fact. I am a failure is a story. Rejection is an event. No one will ever value me is an assumption. When you fail to question your thoughts, you become ruled by them. But when you pause and examine them, you step into authority. Fear often sounds convincing, but it rarely presents evidence. Train yourself to think like a judge in a courtroom. Do not immediately accept the accusation your mind throws at you. Ask, what proof supports this claim? What proof contradicts it? Is this thought based on facts, or is it built on emotion? Is it permanent, or is it temporary? Most negative thoughts crumble when exposed to calm reasoning. They rely on exaggeration, generalization, and worst-case imagination. The moment you demand evidence, they begin to weaken. This practice builds mental discipline. Instead of reacting emotionally to every inner voice, you respond with clarity. Over time, you stop believing every fearful narrative and start trusting only what is rational and constructive. Your mind becomes less of a battlefield and more of a courtroom where truth, not fear, makes the final decision. Expect difficulty before it arrives. One reason negativity hits so hard is because we secretly expect life to go according to plan. We assume people will act fairly, opportunities will come easily, and progress will be smooth. So when obstacles appear, we feel betrayed by reality itself. The Stoics understood this psychological trap. Seneca advised rehearsing hardship in the mind, while Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that he would encounter difficult, ungrateful, and selfish people. This was not pessimism, it was preparation. By expecting friction, they removed the element of shock. When difficulty finally arrived, it felt familiar, not catastrophic. The pain of an obstacle often comes less from the obstacle itself and more from the surprise of it. When you mentally prepare for challenges, you train your nervous system to stay steady. Instead of thinking, "Why is this happening?" you think, "I knew something like this could happen." That subtle shift changes everything. You respond instead of react. You plan instead of panic. Negative visualization strengthens resilience because it allows you to imagine solutions before emotions take control. If you expect setbacks, delays, criticism, and uncertainty as part of the journey, they stop feeling like personal attacks. They become part of the process. Preparation reduces overthinking because your mind has already visited the scenario and survived it. When hardship finally knocks, it doesn't enter as a stranger. It enters as something you have already faced in your thoughts, calmly, rationally, and with control. Separate events from interpretation. An event by itself is neutral. It simply happens. It carries no emotional label until your mind assigns one. Losing a job is an event. It's a change in circumstance. The moment you say, "I am useless," that's interpretation. Someone not replying to your message is an event. The thought, "They must dislike me," is a story your mind creates to fill uncertainty. The Stoics repeatedly warned about this mental habit. Epictetus thought that people are disturbed by not things, but by the views they take of them. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to strip events of the narratives he attached to them. Facts are usually simple. Our interpretations are dramatic, and it's the drama, not the fact, that produces suffering. When you train yourself to pause and separate the raw event from the meaning you assign to it, clarity returns. You begin to ask, "What actually happened?" instead of, "What does this say about me?" This small shift protects your peace. It stops you from turning temporary setbacks into permanent identities. It prevents you from assuming intentions without evidence. Most emotional pain grows from exaggerated stories, worst-case assumptions, mind reading, and self-criticism. When you remove the added layers of interpretation, the situation often becomes manageable. You respond to reality instead of reacting to imagination. And once the dramatic story is removed, negativity loses its fuel, leaving behind a clearer, calmer perspective rooted in reason rather than emotion. Remember how small you are in the universe. Your current problem feels overwhelming because you are standing too close to it. When you zoom in on a single moment, it can seem like the entire world is collapsing around you. But step back. Imagine your life from a distance. Imagine years passing. Imagine generations before you who struggled, worried, failed, and eventually disappeared into history. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on how small one human life is compared to the vastness of time and the universe. This was not meant to make him feel insignificant in a negative way. It was meant to shrink his ego and calm his fears. Most of what feels urgent today will not matter a decade from now. Most of what embarrasses you now will be forgotten. Time has a way of dissolving what once felt unbearable. This higher perspective doesn't invalidate your pain, it simply places it in proportion. When you realize you are one small part of an immense universe, your problems return to their real size. They are events in a chapter, not the entire book. You begin to ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years, in 10? If the answer is no, you loosen your grip. If the answer is yes, you focus on what you can do calmly and rationally. The Stoics used this mental zoom out to reduce emotional intensity. It transforms panic into patience. It turns drama into discipline. When you see the bigger picture, you stop reacting as if this moment defines your entire existence. You respond with steadiness, knowing that life is vast, time is long, and this challenge is smaller than it first appeared.
Discipline your inner dialogue. The way you speak to yourself quietly shapes the way you experience the world. Your inner dialogue becomes the lens through which you interpret success, failure, progress, and pain. If your internal voice constantly criticizes, exaggerates mistakes, and predicts disaster, negativity slowly becomes part of your identity. You stop seeing challenges as temporary and start seeing yourself as permanently flawed. The Stoics warned against this kind of self-sabotage. Epictetus taught that we must guard our judgments carefully because repeated thoughts turn into beliefs, and beliefs shape character. Marcus Aurelius often wrote reminders to himself, correcting his own thinking with calm, rational statements. They practiced self-discipline, not self-abuse. They understood that strength begins with how you speak within. When you replace destructive phrases with constructive ones, you are not lying to yourself, you are training yourself. Instead of saying, "I always fail," say, "I am learning and improving." Instead of declaring, "This is impossible," say, "This is difficult, but I will attempt it with effort and patience." The words may seem small, but your mind absorbs them deeply. Repeated negative language programs helplessness. Repeated disciplined language builds resilience. Speak to yourself the way a wise mentor would speak, firm, honest, but encouraging. Leaders do not insult themselves into greatness. They correct, adjust, and move forward. When your inner voice becomes disciplined and steady, your outer actions follow. And once that shift happens, you stop living like a victim of circumstance and start operating like someone in control of their own growth. Act despite the noise. Overthinking feeds on hesitation. The longer you sit with fearful thoughts, the louder they become. Your mind begins to create scenarios, then consequences, then imagined failures that have not even happened. But action interrupts that spiral. Movement breaks the loop. When doubt says wait, discipline says start. Make the call even if your voice shakes. Begin the task even if you feel unprepared. Step into the gym even if motivation is low. The Stoics believed that character is not built through endless thinking, but through deliberate action. Epictetus emphasized practice over theory, and Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to stop debating what a good person is and simply be one. Action turns philosophy into strength. Progress creates evidence, evidence creates confidence, and confidence weakens doubt. When you act, even imperfectly, you prove to yourself that fear does not control you. Overthinking thrives in stillness because nothing contradicts it. But when you move forward, reality often proves your worst assumptions wrong. Even if the outcome is not perfect, you gain experience, skill, and resilience. Each small action shrinks the space available for negativity to breathe. The more you act, the less time your mind has to imagine disaster. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is movement despite it. And once you build the habit of acting through the noise, your thoughts begin to follow your lead instead of the other way around. Accept mortality, value the present. The Stoics regularly reflected on death, not as a dark obsession, but as a source of clarity.
To them, remembering mortality was a way to sharpen focus and eliminate trivial concerns. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he could leave life at any moment, so he should act, speak, and think accordingly. Seneca wrote that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. When you truly accept that your time is limited, arguments lose importance, grudges feel heavy and unnecessary, and endless worry begins to look like a poor investment. Mortality strips away illusion. It forces you to confront what actually matters. When you remember that life is finite, urgency enters your decisions. You stop postponing growth. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop allowing fear to dictate your days. Negative thinking loses much of its power because you realize you cannot afford to spend your limited time trapped in imagined disasters. Instead of asking, "What if everything goes wrong?" you begin asking, "How do I want to use today?" That question transforms your priorities. You become intentional with your words, your effort, and your attention. Accepting mortality does not make life gloomy, it makes it valuable. It reminds you that this moment, right now, is something you will never get back, and that awareness pushes you to live with purpose rather than hesitation. Master yourself, not the world. The ultimate goal of Stoicism is not to control the world around you, but to master yourself. Life will always have storms, unexpected obstacles, and unpredictable people. You cannot stop the rain, and you cannot dictate how others behave, but you can strengthen your anchor. You can build a mind that stays steady when chaos surrounds it. You cannot silence criticism or betrayal, but you can silence the insecurity and self-doubt that give them power. Real strength doesn't come from trying to manipulate outcomes or people. It comes from regulating your own thoughts, emotions, and actions. When you focus inward, you reclaim control over the only thing truly yours, your response. Mastering yourself transforms how negativity affects you. Criticism becomes information, not a verdict. Setbacks become lessons, not personal attacks. Frustration becomes fuel for patience, not a trigger for despair. The moment you govern your mind, external chaos loses its authority over you. Negative thoughts can exist, but they no longer dominate. They become background noise instead of rules. By mastering your reactions, your inner world becomes unshakable, and peace is no longer dependent on what happens outside. You learn that power is not in changing reality, it's in changing how you meet it. So, tell me honestly, if your thoughts are not facts, if obstacles are actually training, and if true control begins within yourself, what excuse remains to let negativity govern your life? Every anxious assumption, every self-criticism, every imagined disaster is just a choice you've made to give it power. Facts don't fear. Facts don't blame. Facts don't paralyze. Once you see that your mind can be questioned, your pain can be learned from, and your reactions can be mastered, negativity has nowhere to settle. The only thing standing in your way is the decision to act differently, to respond with clarity, courage, and responsibility. Everything else is just noise. Negative thoughts are loud, but disciplined minds are louder. If you found this content valuable, I'd truly appreciate it if you could like this video, follow the channel, and subscribe for more. Every comment you leave not only shares your thoughts, but also creates a community of people seeking clarity, growth, and practical wisdom. Your engagement shows that this content resonates, and it motivates me to continue producing lessons that cut through the noise of daily life. By supporting the channel, you're helping bring more powerful Stoic insights into the world, insights that can transform how we think, act, and respond to challenges. So take a moment, join the journey, and let's grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient together.